What's up, everybody? Well, I got another Asus G15 Advantage video for you guys today, and today I figured, why don't we do my year of ownership review finally? I was hoping I would get the thing, you know, all perfect and get ultra good temps and all of that before I made this video, but that's gonna take more time. I'm probably not even gonna make like a video on it. I'll just probably say at the beginning of one of my videos, hey, I finally got good temps or something, you know, or post it in the Discord or something. But anyway, so let's just dive right in. Figure first and foremost, I should tell you how it's been over the year plus of ownership at this point, and I can only speak for myself, but so far I have had very few problems with mine. The only problems I had are ones I've created for myself. Like, it gets a little warm now, but that's because I opened it up and fiddled with it. A lot of times they say, if you fiddle with shit, you're just gonna make it worse. Well, this is a perfect example of that. That doesn't mean everybody that tries it will have worse results. That might have just been something I did. I might have messed up on something. I am not perfect. But anyway, other than that though, it has been perfect. It hasn't been crashing, black screening, restarting randomly, or any of that stuff. I've seen a lot of reports and people asking me if that happened to me, and I got lucky, I guess. Mine's even an M6 serial number, so mine's pretty old. Now, the only other issues that mine had that aren't really a big problem for anyone else besides crazy people like me who want to get absolute best performance no matter what. It doesn't have an MUX switch, so what that means is it has to pass, when you're not plugged into a monitor like it is now, it has to pass through the integrated GPU, and when it does that, you lose a bunch of performance. That's one places where a lot of laptops beat it. But if you've got an extra monitor lying around like I did, I just hooked up an old 1440p 165 Hz monitor I had lying around. Though it's not like a lot of people have $200-300 of monitor lying around their house, but if you want to get one and get optimal performance, if you want to kind of use it as a desktop replacement, just know you get more performance on an external monitor. And besides that and it getting a little warm, those are really the two only big issues with it as far as I'm concerned. Other than that, it's a great laptop. So I'm trying to think of anything else positive or negative I could really say at the beginning of here before we start just looking it over and going into other parts, and I can't really think of any other things. It seems to have been a pretty good laptop and it hasn't really fucked up for me. So anyway though, why don't we now move on, and I'll take the camera off the tripod here, shut the laptop down, and we'll go over the ports and whatnot real quick. I think that'll be a pretty good one. So let's go and do that. All right, let's just have a quick look at the ports really fast now that it's shut down. Starting off here, we got ourselves a vent for the GPU right here. We have two USB 3.0 ports right there. Then moving on right here, we have a headphone jack. I believe it is a duo where you can plug a microphone, headphone combo directly into it. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote. Not what I wrote, but what I read in the manual. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, you can also see a little bit of the front RGB on the side. And that's it for this side. So why don't we go ahead and turn this thing around and move on to the next side? Well, now for the front here, as you can see, we've just got a little RGB strip along the front and a place to grab a hold and open the lid. But beyond that, that's about all we got. There's nothing else on the front. So on to the next side. All right, so now on the right side, all we have is a vent for cooling, and then you can see the continuation of the front RGB strip. And then beyond that, that's all we got for this guy. Not a whole lot of exciting stuff going on this side. So now, why don't we go ahead and move on to the most important part, the back of the laptop. So now for the back side of the laptop here, we have a vent, and it's kind of interesting. It almost looks like it has an MM and a V and a 1. So is that like something MM6? Or something. Anyway, then you have another USB 3.0 port next to that. And then if we move next to that, you have your USB-C, which is important for getting external monitors if you want full performance. Then there's the HDMI next to that, which you should not use unless you're just doing a presentation or just want to play like an emulator, because that goes directly to your integrated graphics, and you're going to have a bad time with any new age games with that, I can assure you. And then next to that, we've got ourselves the LAN port. Now this is gigabit. And then last up, you have your power plug. Well, not last up, but you've got your power plug right here, and then last up you have another vent. Now I think it's interesting that this vent and this vent look different. Some people that might trigger, but you're never going to be looking at the back of your laptop really. And then besides that, there's one more thing I want to show you. I got to try not to drop my expensive camera, but you can also do this and take this off, and mine came with different ones of these that you can put here, but really easy, and then it just gets held back in place with like magnets or something. And that's about it. So why don't we go ahead and move on? All right, now I figured I would talk about the keyboard, and can't really hear it too much. It doesn't make a bunch of noise, so it's not like mechanical or anything, but it doesn't feel like mushy or anything. Now some people might not like this, but as you can see, the WSAD keys are clear. I think it's kind of cool, but doesn't really do anything useful, but I think it's neat. But even after all this time of me using this, just by itself at friends' houses and stuff. I haven't worn out any keys on the keyboard or anything. None of them feel mushy or anything like that. They all feel pretty damn awesome. And as you can tell, it's RGB. You can control all of this RGB through the Armory Crate software. It has a thing called Aura Sync in there, and you can mess with all of your RGB and all that. And also, don't mind the flickering. That's just my camera being weird. Thing won't flicker like that for you. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I have no idea what causes it to not do that and what doesn't. But other than that, keyboard's pretty damn awesome. It's not the greatest keyboard that ever was on a laptop, but it's definitely not bad either. So I would say it's definitely a very adequate keyboard. But since I use mine mostly as a desktop replacement while I'm at home anywhere, I've got a Razer Black Widow Tournament Edition keyboard that I use usually. So that's about it for the keyboard. So why don't we go ahead and move on to the next portion of this little review. Now we're going to talk about the touchpad real quick. Now, I don't use this too much except for when I'm like making a video and I have it sitting on top of my secondary capture computer, but it's pretty good. It doesn't do any weird like double or triple clicks. It always does what I tell it to do. It's kind of sometimes if you're not paying attention, it's kind of hard to differentiate where you are on it if you're not paying attention. See, right to about right. That's where it starts coming up and making it like you're doing a right click. But as long as you're paying attention, it's pretty nice. And it also has like gestures, so if you want to scroll around websites, you can just kind of do that with 2 fingers, and it scrolls really nice. It's actually quite awesome. Excuse my autofocus. I'm still getting used to that. I wished I could just turn off the autofocus and always focus myself, but then I'd probably forget and then shit would be out of focus, so I still like to have it on. Anyway though, pretty good touchpad. Not too bad, not too good. Again, it's an adequate touchpad, but I feel a lot of people will want to probably use a mouse more often than not, but if you're just surfing the web or messing around on your computer, it's definitely more than good enough. It always tracks perfectly. It feels very, very smooth, even though it's not glass or anything. So that's pretty cool. Very, very adequate touchpad. So I think that's about it for touchpad. Why don't we now move along to the next part? So now I figured I would go over the RGB. Now, we already saw a little of the RGB on the keyboard here, but you can go and mess with it. There's a bunch of different settings from like wave to static colors if you don't like it doing the rainbow effect, but I usually just leave it on stock. This is what mine came with stock, and I didn't feel like messing with it, so I just left it alone. There's also keys up here on the keyboard, right here, F1 and F3, or F2 and F3, excuse me, and those keys make it brighter or less bright. Here, I'll just show you real quick. And you can go all the way up, and then you can even shut it all the way off if you want to, if you don't want any RGB keyboard for whatever reason. And then, if we just tilt this guy up real quick here, I'll pick him up, and there you go. It also has a cool little RGB port, or not port, but strip going across the front, and it comes around and wraps around on the side. So, pretty nice. Not too much RGB, so it's not super flashy. Oh, and then one more thing. It's not RGB, but the back, you can't see it, but that thing glows. It just glows white though. That's it. And as far as I know, you can't turn it off. So that's about it for the RGB. I'd go in and show you all the different settings the RGB could do, but that would make this video way too long. So you can play around with those to your heart's content if you have the laptop or if you're planning on getting the laptop. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next stage of the review. So now I figured real quick we would test out the thing's speakers. Now I don't normally like doing this, but I figured just once to show you guys what it sounds like. Let's turn it up to 100%, and we've got Crab Rave in the background, so I'm sure I'll get them saying, well, are you using copyright music? But I'm not monetized yet or anything, so whatever. As long as they don't block the video so you can't see it, I don't care. If they do, then I'll have to come back to the drawing board and have to redo stuff. But anyway, I'm just gonna shut up and hit play. I've got my little boom mic, my little Rode boom mic set up here, so I probably sound a little different than I did, but I figured my little piece on my shirt isn't good for this kind of stuff. It wouldn't do a good representation of what it sounds like. So I'm just gonna shut on up and we'll listen to a little bit of the Crab Rave. Alright, I think that's plenty, but it sounds pretty damn crisp. It has a little teeny bit of bass, but obviously Not a super amount. I'll put it back to the 72 I usually keep it at for my game videos now, so I remember. And yeah, sounds pretty damn good. Didn't distort or do anything goofy. It just doesn't have like a huge amount of bass, but what do you expect from small little two little tiny speakers that are sitting right about here underneath? That's the other problem. It's bottom firing, so of course it's going to be a little muffled, especially if I have it sitting on a mouse pad. So obviously, your guys' situations of wherever you set the laptop up make it sound a little better, a little worse, but to me, these sound like very good laptop speakers. Again, not top of the line, you know, best ones I've ever heard out of any laptop, but of any laptop I've had, they're the best. But I'm sure there's ones out there with like Bose or Bang & Olufsen or Beats or something like that have better. But still, more than adequate. That seems to be kind of like what this thing is. Mostly adequate shit, but they put the performance where it counts in the CPU and GPU, which we'll get to a little later. But why don't we now move on to the next section? All right, now to quickly go over the processor that's in this thing. It's got a AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX, which has a max TDP of 45 watts, but through the software you can make it go a little bit higher than that, as we all know. It's a 7nm chip, and that's about all that really matters in here. So it's pretty powerful chip. I figured after looking at that real quick, we would just load up Cinebench, and we're still gonna do like a benchmark section or anything, but I just wanted to show you what it would run without doing anything, just even have the internet running in the background. So this is not trying to set any records. I just wanted to show you guys just a quick score of what it would get if you were just kind of using your laptop, just chilling, using it normal, and we can get a quick noise test from the fans. And there we go, put the mic back on myself, and we got 12,819. So we're not winning any benchmarking awards with that, but we do have stuff running in the background. We're not trying to do any of that. I just wanted to show you guys what the fan noise was like, and I don't even know if that works. So we'll obviously do that again a little later with the boom mic, just to make sure we cap. But just wanted to show you a little bit about the CPU real quick. It's a very capable CPU. You can use it to do video editing and all sorts of stuff like that. Has no issues with that at all. Of course, the newer Intels will all be a little faster at stuff like that, but if your main concern is gaming while doing that stuff on the side, because most people aren't running a YouTube channel like me, let's be honest, so that's kind of a moot point. It's probably more than enough CPU for your average person just playing games and doing maybe a little video editing on the side or some picture editing or something like that. Anyway though, why don't we now move on and talk a little bit about the GPU. Now to quickly go over the GPU that's in this guy, it obviously has two GPUs, but it has this is the integrated. The integrated are just a kind of a pile of crap, to be honest with you, but it's used Vega graphics, so it has nothing. You got like 512 memory bus, it's DDR4 because it's using your RAM, 128 bus. Yeah, not good. So why don't we move over to the one that actually matters, the 6800M. So the good GPU in this guy is a 6800M, which, just in case people didn't know, it's basically the exact same chip as a 6700 XT. It's just been obviously power limited to fit in a laptop without burning a hole in it and giving you 1 minute of battery life. But if you look at all the rest of the settings that aren't affected by like clock speed and whatnot, all of the same stuff applies. It's got like the same kind of amount of ROMs and memory, but it has the same bus width, I believe. They might have cut that down a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that's the same as it is on the desktop. It's got GDDR5, of course, Samsung memory. We got 384 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, which is pretty damn good, and it's also 7 nanometers as well. It'd be a little weird if the onboard one was better or less nanometers than the discrete graphics in here. But this guy, without an external monitor, kind of sits in between a 3070 and a 3080 laptop, except when you get into the ray tracing or trying to use professional programs that want to use CUDA. I'm sure there's stuff that does favor AMD, but a lot of stuff out there seems to love CUDA. So that's one of the things you might run into if you care a lot about ray tracing and being able to max all your games with your ray tracing on, then this is probably not the laptop for you. That's one place where this GPU falls flat on its face. But it seems to be able to do video editing and all that other stuff just fine. So it may not do as good as its NVIDIA counterpart, but it still can handle it no problems. It's not like it can't handle it. Now, one lame thing about this laptop, I figured I would just put this in this part, is for whatever reason, AMD Relive doesn't work, which is kind of like AMD's version of Shadowplay. So I've always got to use OBS when I want to get screen recording on this thing, which uses a little bit of resources to do so, unfortunate. But it is what it is. But I just want to let you know, that's why sometimes I say in my 1440p videos, hey, make sure you realize I'm recording with OBS. We're going to lose some FPS. Make sure you watch the camera record portion for the real FPS. Anyway, though, that's about really all I can say about the GPU. I'd run a benchmark, but but we're just gonna get to a benchmark section, and I don't even think you can hear fan noise or anything with this silly mic I have on my shirt. I was like putting it over and I didn't see any yellow lines at all on my display here. So anyway, let's move on to the next portion of this. I know this is gonna probably be a long video, but I think it'll be worth it in the end. I think this will turn out quite nice. Now, real quick, I wanted to go over the RAM I put in here. Now, mine, unfortunately, came with some pretty crappy RAM, where it had like super high timings, and it just wasn't very good. Now, the thing about this laptop is some people just get decent RAM that is even dual rank from the factory, and they don't even need to mess with their RAM at all. So always make sure that you've got the decent RAM or bad RAM before you go and watch my video about upgrading your RAM automatically, because you might not need to, and it might be a big waste of money. And the easiest way to tell, I figured I would just show you guys real quick. Get a program called Hardware Info 64, start it up, hit sensors only. It'll load up. I don't really have time for your new versions right now. And then just move down to the memory timings tab right here, and then you're going to want to look at this TCFC. And if it says something like 880, then you've got the bad RAM. It should be, I believe, like 560 like mine is, or like 600 or something like that if you've got the good RAM. And unfortunately, my RAM is not dual rank like I thought it was this whole time. It says right here, this is only single. So you got to make sure you get the right version. I'm pretty sure I've been telling people the right version, but you got to make sure that it is dual rank if you're going to waste your money getting like this expensive RAM. I could have gotten even better performance because there's a CL20, but it's dual rank. But it's a little more money. I think it's $350 versus $250. And I don't really think that last little bit of dual rank was really going to do me that much better. This is still way better than the RAM I had, even though it's single rank. But I've got 32 gigs of RAM now too, so that's also pretty cool. I don't know how much that affects my performance, the 32 gig part, but all I do know is I got a pretty big increase in performance in games like, just as an example, Assassin's Creed, when I think went from being like 80 something, like 86 FPS, all the way up to like 93 or 95 FPS. And that doesn't sound like much, but that's a pretty big jump just from putting some RAM in your laptop. Anyway though, that's about it for the RAM, so let's move on. Now, just ever so quickly, I figured I'd touch on the Wi-Fi on this thing. Now, it comes stock with a MediaTek Wi-Fi chip in it, and quite honestly, I didn't have any problems with mine dropping me out of games or lagging in games or anything, but what ticked me off the most was waiting 30-40 seconds for it to actually connect or do anything when I start my computer. That was the thing that got me the most. That, and it didn't have the most impressive range or download speeds either because of said range. So I went and upgraded to a Intel AX 200. There is a 210 I could have gotten, and I thought I had that one in my cart, but if you're gonna go through all the trouble, you might as well put the latest and greatest in there. Not that it makes a huge difference for most people, but you might as well if you're going through the trouble. So I went and got that, and now I got better upload speeds, better download speeds, and better connection, and it starts like immediately. Like it connects the second my thing starts. Like I don't have to wait around waiting for my internet to connect if I want to do something just on Wi-Fi. Recently though, I have connected it to just wired, to be wired, just so I can download games way faster. Like no matter what, when you're in this room versus the router being all the way in my game room, even 5 gigahertz, since it's not meant to go that far, you lose performance, and then 2.4 still doesn't get you good performance. So, but that's about it for the Wi-Fi. So if you guys are having a problem, some people were saying they were having issues with it dropping out and lagging them out of games. So that's one thing I would probably upgrade on this thing immediately upon getting it. If you're having trouble, that is. If it's not any issue for you, leave it alone. That's the best thing to do with stuff. If it doesn't cause you any issue, just leave it alone. But now, let us move on to the next portion of the review. Now I've shut off all the lights to show you guys the screen real quick. It is a 1080p IPS screen, 300 hertz. So it's very good for competitive gaming, which is what I got it for, to take to my friend's house, play Counter-Strike, Warzone, Fortnite, what have you, that kind of stuff. But it's also cool to be able to max games out usually at 1080p, or at least get them close, and have them still look really good without losing a bunch of frames like what happens with 1440p a lot of the time. But as you can see, it does have a little bit of backlight bleed in some of the corners, like down over in this corner, down in the right-hand corner. But beyond that, it's not that bad. The camera makes it look a lot worse than it looks in person. But I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. It's a pretty dang nice screen, though, for just being on a $1,600 laptop, which is now like a $1,000 to $1,300 laptop. It's more than adequate. And there's also a 1440p version, but if you go to Best Buy like I did, I think they just have the 1080p version. I think the 1440p version's mostly in other countries. I could be wrong, and I'm sure you can get it from Amazon. So just make sure you get either which one you want. If you want to be more competitive and have be able to turn your settings up a lot more and get higher frame rates with said turned up settings, then go 1080p. If you want to just have it be a little bit more crispy, but you're okay with having a little less FPS, and then go with the 1440p version. It's still 165 hertz, So it's not like it's a slow panel by any means, and I believe it's also more color accurate. So if you're doing more professional work, I'd recommend getting that screen because it's more color accurate than this one is. This one's close, but it's not quite there. Anyway, that's about it for the screen. Let's move along. Now, real fast, I wanted to talk about what I went over a little bit at the beginning of the video. You get more performance on this computer by hooking it up to an external screen, which is what I've done here. I use it mostly like a desktop. I've got my Final Mouse 10Z right there. We got my Black Widow keyboard. I don't have these plugged back in yet, so they don't have any lights or anything on them. But this is the best way to get performance. It completely bypasses the integrated graphics problem, thus fixing the problem of not having a MUX switch. Well, it fixes it if you have an extra monitor, that is. If you don't, it's still kind of an issue because you do lose some performance that you'd otherwise have if you did have. So that's pretty much about it for that. Now, when I do the benchmarks, I'm gonna show you an example real quick at the end of just like probably Firestrike or Time Spy probably because it's newer with it plugged in versus not, and we'll see how big of a jump we get in performance. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's time to move along. So now going along with the screens and talking about all that, I figured we would talk about one of the elephants in the room. If you've noticed, there is no webcam whatsoever on this thing. Now, since I'm just a gamer, I was never planning on, getting a webcam or anything. And most webcams and laptops are terrible anyway. So their solution is you hook your phone up and you use your phone as your webcam, and your phone is gonna look a lot better. So just hook it up with the USB cable, and then you can go into the app, Armory Create app, and then you can go and set it up from there, and then you can have a nice camera. It can be webcam, you can use it to record videos, you can do whatever you want with it then. And it'll be a lot better than most webcams that come in these. Or you can just go get a webcam separately if you don't want to use your phone or anything like that. There's a lot of pretty badass webcams that have come out very recently. I actually just watched a J2 one about it, this Insta360 that seems to be pretty damn awesome. So that's about that. Just wanted to show you that tell you about the lack of the webcam, which is another one of the issues. I kind of forgot to say that at the very beginning, but that was just an intro anyway. I'll try to do a pros and cons at the end, just as we wrap up. Anyway though, it's time for us to move on to the next section. Now real quick, I never showed this part before, but I wanted to show you guys a quick sample of the microphone quality, because it may not have a webcam, but it still does have a mic. So if you just want to audio chat with people, I guess you can, or just yell at people in a video game, you can. You don't need a headset or anything for that. You can they can hear you. I just don't know how good they are. So now, real quick, we'll throw a quick sample of that in really quick, because that's not something I can show you on camera here, and then we'll move on after that. All right, here's a quick test of the microphone quality on this laptop. Don't know how good it sounds, but I figured we'd just get a quick little test. It definitely seems to pick up voices. I'm not shouting, but it is peaking like crazy, so if I was using this, I'd probably have to tone some stuff down, but it's just stock however it was, so that's about that. So that's about it for the mic test quality. I'll just have to remember to put this actually in the correct spot in the video. But now, let's move along. Guys, I just wanted to do a quick fan test and show you what it sounds like. So I'm just running a Superposition on 1080p Extreme real quick. So I'm going to shut up and let you guys hear the fan test. Alright, I think that's good enough. So now let's move along. So now real quick, I figured I would touch on battery life. Obviously, I'm not gonna do a huge example here and go drain the battery all the way to 0, because we already did that in another video a bunch of times in a row. But I figured I would just go over what to expect. So if you're gaming with the dedicated GPU, you're only gonna, playing a AAA title, you're only gonna get 45 minutes, maybe an hour tops. Absolutely tops. It is absolutely not good to play that, and you lose a lot of performance when you unplug it from the wall, because it doesn't let you use manual or turbo. I don't even think it lets you use performance. I think you can only use like freaking silent. You might be able to use performance or basic or something like that. I'll get a better look once we get in Armory Create. I could just unplug it for a second and we can see for ourselves what ones are available or not. But anyway, now if you're playing a little something like, I don't know, Genshin Impact or that other tower game, what is it? There's some other tower game that pretty much seemed like almost a carbon copy of Genshin Impact. But anyway, if you're playing a game like that, that's probably more like an hour and 20 minutes. You can get a little bit more at that, because that's not as intensive. Now, if you're just doing doing some emulators and you're not even using the dedicated GPU, just using the integrated, now you can probably get like 3-4 hours of gameplay like that. But not too many people are gonna want to be doing that. And then editing videos and stuff, same thing as like running a game. You get 45 minutes. I wouldn't want to risk losing it and not having my work get edited or encoded before it runs out of batteries and shuts off on you. So wouldn't do that without a power source. But what you can do if you were like me, and I got this thing originally because my power went out, so a lot of times would give the generator a rest, and we wouldn't have any power besides what's in the tank here. So if you turn it down minimum brightness, put it on power saving mode in Windows, and put it on silent and have your turbo turned off where your CPU doesn't turbo, you can get 8 to 9 hours easily just watching some Netflix or something, or not Netflix because you turned your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all that off, but if you got stuff on there, like I watched a bunch of anime. I started watching Air Gear and I just had them on here and it lasted forever that way. It took like no battery power at all to do that. So that's about it for battery life. So now why don't we go ahead and move along to the next talking point. Now to talk about build quality. I have had absolutely no build quality issues. All of my stuff works exactly the way it did the day I got it. Hinges still feel good. Now, some people claim that the screen is a little flimsy, but you shouldn't be trying to open your screen from the corner anyway. That's what this is for. If you do this, it does not feel bad to me personally. It feels like any other laptop. I've had laptops where the screen feels like it's bending doing that, and this one doesn't. It feels very good. And yeah, it's not like super high quality. There's no metal or anything. Everything on it is soft touch plastic, but that's okay with me. I'm not trying to win any beauty contests with my laptops when I buy them. I only cared about the performance, the price to performance exactly with this one, and that's why I got it. So build quality to me is more than good enough, and it doesn't even look super gamery because you can turn off all the RGB and it's only subtle RGB. You got an RGB keyboard and you got a RGB light bar, and you can turn those off if you're just gonna want to use it in like class or something and you don't want it, you know, doing the freaking RGB light show in the middle of class like in college or something. But that's about it for build quality. It's been very good. It hasn't broken, no creaks, no rattles. It's just been a very, very reliable, good laptop as far as build quality goes. Again, it's not made out of glass, it's not made out of metal, but it doesn't really need to be. And if it was, it would be a lot more expensive. It'd be more like what a Razer costs. I like to think those are just like MacBooks with like badass graphics cards shoved in them, which can't even usually run at full power because it's such a thin thing. They overheat and throttle themselves back to the point where you could have an RTX 3080 and like another brand's laptop. You won't even get as good performance as like their 3070 laptop, for example, or 3070 Ti. That's what I was trying to say there. So you gotta be careful with the TDPs. This is a 140 watt TDP card in this thing, so it's pretty good. It's pretty powerful. It's got a 288 watt, or no, a 280 watt power brick. So it's got plenty of juice left in the tank to run at full tilt and not run like to the point where it can't charge and play at the same time. My friend has a computer where it can't charge and play at the same time. It like the battery life goes down and he eventually has to stop playing when he's out on like a business trip. Anyway though, that's about it for build quality. So next point. So here is the Armory crate program. This is kind of like the program that controls the whole laptop. Now you've got different settings down here. You can have it do Windows and just let Windows take care of everything. You can do silent, which is pretty much my super battery saving, which you noticed my brightness went way down. It also turns my turbo off, so it'll only go up to 3.2 gigahertz or something like that top. Then you've also got performance, which is just a little bit, it's kind of the middle grade. You get all right performance, not super loud, but you don't get optimum performance. Now turbo is just letting it basically go balls to the wall, but it still takes care of the fans itself. So you can do what I do, and manual is pretty much just turbo with custom fan speeds and custom APU or SPPTs and platform SPTs. Now, if you want to get, if you want to kill your temps, you can bring this down to 25 and hit that, and then it'll get pretty much the same performance. You might lose 5, 6, 7 FPS, but you'll only get up to like 88 to 90 for temps. But I like to just go balls to the wall. It's been doing fine the whole time, and then it always comes up with this warning. If it doesn't work right, it might crash, it might blue screen, something might happen, you might have to restart your computer by holding the button down. So beyond that, we've also got another little tab here where you can quickly go to your system or your Aura wallpaper. Now down here is your Aura sync. Now here's where you would go and mess around with your lighting. You can sync your devices there. Now here's all the effects that it can do. I just have it on rainbow, the stock one it comes with, but you can do any one of these ones you got. You got static breathing, strobing, color cycle, rainbow, starry night music, smart, adaptive color, and dark. And there's even advanced effect and in-game lighting effects too. Though I haven't seen too many games that really do my keyboard in this. I've seen ones that do my Corsair and my Razer, but not really this one. So beyond that, you got game visual for just different, game literally what it says, visuals. So you can have it look better for racing games, scenery, RTS, RPG, FPS, cinema, eye care, and you can just have it look vivid. I just have it on default. And this only works on this screen. It won't work if you have it hooked up to an external monitor like I normally do, which is probably why I don't use it much. And you can also mess with your color temperature up there. So then if we go down here, you got your game library, which doesn't work very well, so I would never use that, but it kind of works like a ghetto Steam, and yeah, just doesn't work very good. Now down here, you got your audio, I believe. You can create different profiles, so you can have like your win key on, your volume at a certain percent, and this, that, and the other thing, and then you can save it, and you can have a bunch of different profiles. And then down here, this is basically just a bunch of ads, just to be frank. Just a bunch of ads, and you can redeem stuff, but that never really did anything for me. I think they just shut that down because no one was using it. Don't hold me to that, but I've never really seen anything useful from that tab. Then you got your news, which again is usually just a bunch of nonsense. I don't pay attention to it. And then you can go here to your settings, and this is where you get updates. Now there is some new audio and framework service and stuff, but I'm pretty sure this, oh no, this is for Orwuppy. I was gonna say that scared me. I thought that was trying to install that crappy BIOS again. But and then you can also go up here into your About tab and it'll tell you your app version and all of that stuff. Now normally I would do a screen recorder thing with this, but this new camera is so fucking badass. It should be able to make short work of that. And then I don't have to risk it not letting the screen recorded stuff go into the editing program DaVinci. I've had a couple days where I've gotten some screen recorded stuff and I just couldn't use it. It just wouldn't let me drag and drop. Don't know why. So this prevents that from happening. Anyway though, why don't we move on to the next thing, as we've gone through pretty much all the different things Armory Crate can do. Right, now we're just gonna run some benchmarks and whatnot. We're gonna start off with Cinebench R23 and then move on from there. And we're gonna do multi-core and single core. Now, we'll do temps. I'm not going to show temps this time. I'll wait until we're doing gaming for that, because that way hardware info doesn't make the benchmark get less score than it could possibly get. We'll even go and get rid of Afterburner for now, because that doesn't affect score too much, but it's not like I use it for overclocking the GPU or anything. So, why don't we now jump in and see what it gets. So, we got 12,973 multi, so we got a little bit higher than we did in my one mounting video, but we only got 1427 single, which I got 1474 there. But who knows? Benchmarks can be a weird thing, and it's not running right quite yet anyway. Anyhow, let's move on to the next benchmark. We're gonna go run Firestrike and Time Spy next. Now, we got 27,537 for a Firestrike score, for the total score anyway, and then we got 34,643 graphics, 23,956 for physics, and a combined of 11,901. So, not too bad. A little lower than it was when I did that one video of doing the mounting pressure, but these benchmarks are really random. That's just how they are. So, now let's go real quick and see what it's like with a external monitor hooked up. So we got 27,656 this time with hooked up to a external monitor. We actually lost a little graphics score, but we picked up some physics score and some combined score. We got 33,902 for graphics this time, 24,250 for physics, and 12,739 for a combined. So with that, why don't we go move on to Time Spy now? Well, this time around we got 11,076, which is really, really low. It's probably throttling super hard. So you'll probably get better performance than this. And I've even got the good RAM and everything. But like I said, since I opened mine up, it does not look that impressive in the performance department anymore. And then here's what we got in the other sets: 11,402 for graphics and 9,532 for CPU. So let's hook it up to an external monitor real quick and test it out there real fast. Well, we still didn't do very good, but we got 11,137, graphics score 11,417, and a CPU score of 9,783. So yeah, whatever I did fucked it up something good. It's getting horrible performance now, but I'll have to open it back up and try again. There's got to be some way to at least get it back to how it was before. I'm not even expecting to get good performance anymore. I just want it to be back to the way it was. Anyway, on to the next benchmark. Well, we got 6,264 for a result with a minimum FPS of 36, an average of 46, and a max of 57. So now, why don't we go run the exact same test that we just ran, only connected to the monitor. Well, here's what we got for Superposition hooked up to an external monitor, about the exact same. Same minimums, 3656, 4688, and 5717. And I think we got about the same score, 6268. Anyway, though, it kind of sucks because I think it's just throttling really bad, since it's still not making great contact, probably even worse contact than it was before. So I really need to open it up again. I didn't really want to, but I guess I don't have to open it all the way up. I just have to keep taking the screws out and keep trying to get better mounting pressure at this point, because I know I've got the liquid metal and everything else good. So anyway, why don't we now go get a little bit of some gameplay? Well, all right. Figured we'd get a little bit of some gameplay in here. Let me change to this view. I'm not good at driving in this view, but go Jaguar, go! Certainly does take a while to get to the end, doesn't it? But yeah, gets very good FPS in this game. More than playable anyway. Alright, back into my mode. I like this mode the best. That's a pull. Alright, I'm done. Why don't we pull on over here, and why don't we go ahead and move on to the next game. Alright guys, let's get a little Fortnite in now before we move on to the next game. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of FPS. Let's land though so we can see what kind of FPS we really get. Get over here, you. I must hit you. That was definitely a bot. Reload. He almost got me, too. But yeah, lots of FPS in this game. Whatever this new update did, we definitely get like really pretty smooth FPS. Fuck you, wolf. Hell yeah. Well, let's move on to the next game now, shall we? Well, let's get some... Okay, what the hell? I can't, There we go. It wasn't letting me cut the parachute. I was like, what the fuck? But anyway, let's get some Modern Warfare 2 in now. Bunch of ammo. Nice. Alright, let's get back outside here. So we can get some outside gameplay too. Actually surprised. I honestly figured this game would get a lot more FPS on competitive settings than it does. It's not like I can't play with 100 FPS, but you know, you always want a little bit more when you're in an FPS game like this. But still, at least it's a lot more than 60, so I can play no problem. So I wouldn't let that not getting like 240 FPS in a game prevent you from getting a laptop. Because this is exactly what I got it to do, and it does it pretty damn well. Would I like extra FPS just to say hell yeah? Sure, but can I play like this? Fuck yeah. Alright, well I'm gonna go and be a troll under this bridge, but I think it's time for us to move on to the next game. Well now, let's get a little bit of some Red Dead Redemption 2 gameplay in. Now I know I'm not showing you guys settings, but they're all at pretty, like, high ultra settings. For a lot of settings. Some stuff I put on medium and whatnot, stuff that I don't think matters that much, but look at how nice this game looks. Textures is on ultra, which is what really matters. I toned shadows down a little bit. Somebody pities his enemies. Who pities his enemies? Who? Is it me? Whoa, we almost had a head-on horse collision there. That wouldn't have been no good. But yeah, running very good. We're right at about 100 FPS most of the time. Sometimes way over, up in the hundreds, like in the 100 and teens. Definitely not bad at all. Definitely not bad at all. Alright though, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next game. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some Cyberpunk gameplay now. Game still looks great. We got a mixture of high and medium settings here. Just staying above 60. Oh, no, we dropped to 58 for a second there. But this is one of those games where, like, you're running, it just seems to drop to under 60 at random intervals here and there. But for the most part, we're above 60. And it still looks really good. No ray tracing or anything, though. See, most of the time we're in the 80s and 70s. But sometimes, see, we get down into the 60s when we get to be around a lot of peeps. But this is a pretty CPU-intensive game. Not like the CPU's a slouch, but it seems like sometimes it has a hiccup every now and again. But so far we had one instance where we dropped down to 58 the whole time we've been doing this. And now look at all the people on screen. 69, 67, 66. And I mean, seriously, not very many people are going to sit here, open the game, and sit here, open up. There we go, down to 54 for a split second there. 52, 51. There's certain spots in the game that are just hard to run. All the way down to 48 over here for some reason. Why? Well, whatever. Still more playable. As I was going to say, not a lot of people are going to sit here, open up Afterburner, and be like, alright, I'm just going to stare at these FPS. I'm not even going to pay attention to the game. And I am on high textures. I bet if we turn textures down to medium, we'd probably never drop under 60. I just figured it could handle high textures at least. And it can for the most part, as long as you're okay with dropping under 60 every once in a while. But for the most part, it doesn't. Anyway though, let's move on. Well, alright, we'll finish up the gaming section here with a little Elden Ring. Now, I haven't played this in forever, and I even forgot how to call my fucking horse, which means I'm probably gonna get absolutely mollywopped. No. Get away. We got one. Oh shit. Ooh, he's hit me. Alright, we won. Barely. But yeah, if I'm gonna play this game, I gotta practice up a lot. So I almost got killed by just regular old monsters. And I've beaten quite a few bosses already, but I mean, if you can't remember how to call your horse, how the fuck are you gonna do anything else, right? Ah, no. You must fight me on my terms. There we go. Well, alright. I amazingly didn't die somehow. So, now, why don't we go wrap this video on up? Well, alright guys, that is a wrap for this review. I feel like I've pretty much covered everything that I can think of. We got some gameplay, we did a few benchmarks, we went over almost everything there is to go over on it. If there's anything, of course, that I missed, feel free to ask in the comments. So, to wrap this up, all I can say is this has been an absolutely phenomenal laptop for me ever since I bought it. Plus, I feel like it's what made my YouTube channel pretty somewhat successful. Without this laptop, I don't think anybody would still be watching my videos. And now that I've got this, I also have my Steam Deck and my secondary computer and my primary computer, and all of those get pretty decent views now. So it seems like everybody's digging all those videos. But I'll always have this laptop, even if it breaks, I'll keep it around just as like a memento of it starting my YouTube channel. I mean, I started it back when YouTube first came out, but I had like no subs, and I was mostly just doing that for like super fun. Now I'm doing it for fun, and I'm still having a blast, but now I take it a little bit seriously. I sit there and put in a good day's work making these. But anyway, like I said before, if there's anything I did not cover in this video that you would like to know, obviously drop a comment. I try to respond to all comments, but some do get lost and I just don't notice them. So if you ask me something or ask a request or something, always feel free to ask again. I don't ever get mad at people for asking, as long as you're not going to like 40 different videos and then just copy and pasting the same comment. That gets a little old. But so far I've only ever seen one person do anything somewhat similar to that, and I think they just really wanted help because they were kind of irritated, and I get it. I get like that too when shit doesn't go my way. I just want it to work, and he probably just wanted it to work, but spamming the same comment all over videos is never a good way to get attention. Just putting that out there, and that's just my opinion. But anyway, that has nothing to do with the video, so why don't we go ahead and wrap this video on up. I just wanted to end the video with a quick little look over of the setup as I use it normally. We've got our monitor there, we got our keyboard, got our laptop, we got a controller hooked up for some of the controller games we played, and we got my badass mouse too. But anyway, I'm still gonna mess around with the mounting pressure a little bit more. I probably just won't make any videos dedicated to that anymore. I'll just let people know how that's going in the beginnings of my videos from now on. And don't worry, I'm definitely not stopping making videos with this guy. I'll keep making videos till it can't make videos or it breaks, or it gets so slow it can't handle games anymore. But I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Well, as long as the devs don't go, does it run on 4090 and 4080? Okay, it's good, put it out there. If they start doing that, then I don't know. Then this thing might not last. But so far, so good. There's only been a handful of games that kind of run like crap, and I kind of blame more of the optimization more than anything. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was probably pretty long, but I put in a lot of effort into it, and it took a really long time to make and get all the shots and all that good stuff, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But anyway, it's time for us to end, and until the next video, peace out, guys.